So welcome back. Kevin Kilbane is still with us. Kev, I'm told I'm better off sticking to the Skype than the phone signal, so I will keep my questions short and hopefully we'll get through it.
That's unusual for you. Congratulations on the award as well, Joe, as well.
Sorry, just say that again, Kev. The line went. Just say that a bit louder. No, I'm joking.
No, I didn't. If you didn't hear me, yeah.
Yeah. So, Ireland-Slovakia, give us your key thoughts.
Well, I mean, there's probably a bit of a, certainly after the games last month, there's a little bit of a negative feeling around the squad. I don't feel that myself. I feel as though that he's got the first squad out of the way. He's got the first couple games out of the way. He's had a chance to look at everybody. They've had a chance to get a feel of him, what he's going to do. I think the team will be much brighter and much better for that, for the time that they've had on the training ground with Stephen. So I'm looking forward to it. I think we've got players banging form. I think it doesn't necessarily always, transfer over to the international scene when lads are doing well at club level, but we've got lads banging form. We've lads scoring goals. I think we've got our creative players that's in form, which is something that we've not had for a good while. We've got real attacking players that's banging form. We've always relied on our side defensively over the last few years, and I think there's a lot to be optimistic about. I'm looking forward to the game. I think that it's definitely a 50-50 game. Put more into our balance with the lack of crowd at the game. I do feel as though that's going to help us, and I'm looking forward to it. I think we've got a great chance.
I know one of the aspects you liked from the two other games was the way Ireland tried to press without the ball.
Yeah. I think you and I had a conversation privately about it, didn't we? And I think it was. You could definitely see there was absolutely a higher back line where we are going to get caught out. We will probably get caught out at times with sides maybe get one ball over the top because we're playing such a high line. I think there was a certain push from the back line to squeeze the midfield, to squeeze the front line, and I like what I saw. I did. It wasn't always great football. Don't get me wrong, and I think there's a lot more to improve on there. There's a lot more to improve on with and without the ball. Don't get me wrong, but I certainly saw positive signs, certainly in the first match, and that is what I'd be looking forward to seeing, if that can maybe go on to the next level or go on again for the Slovakia game. Absolutely.
Yes, because it wasn't like for all the possession that we created a hatful of chances. That's the next step here. No.
Yeah, do you know what? I think if you look back at the certain managers that I wouldn't want to pigeonhole Stephen Kenny at all, but if you look at certain managers when they start off in a certain club, when you see them going, I'd look at someone like maybe Brendan Rodgers or something like that, or someone like that, where they might dominate possession in certain games, certainly in the early stages, but the goals didn't necessarily flow wherever he's been. If I'm looking back to maybe his Swansea days and maybe even his Liverpool days, goals weren't necessarily flowing, but you could see there was a style that started to be built. And you only need to look at his career and look at what he's done at the various clubs he's been at, that the goals steadily started to flow, and then you started to see really good creative football, and you do feel as though that the chances will start to be created further down the line. So it may have come too soon from the game. It may have come too soon for everybody. But there's no better way, really, in these big qualifiers or these big playoff matches, just to get, the adrenaline rush, to get that bit of a buzz, to get you that bit of buzz about you. And I think the chances will start to flow. But I just think it is going to be work in progress. And we have to give Stephen, we have to give the players, his coaching staff, we have to give everybody that little bit of time just to see how things are going to be going. But as I was saying, this game might be just a little bit ahead of schedule before we've got the big ones coming up.
Yeah, and so with that in mind, you would hope that certainly Ireland keep things tight. If we're not necessarily going to be able to play brilliant fluid football from the off, that's understandable, but keeping things tight here is important. Yeah. There were sloppy goals conceded for whatever reason in the other two games.
Yeah, but that's always the difficulty though, Joe, isn't it? When you and I just been talking a minute or two ago about how we like what we saw in the team pressing. You could see the style. There's always going to be a high risk with that. You only need to look at what Liverpool did this weekend, when you're playing a certain way and you have to keep that back line as high as possible, because if the back line are dropping, you always look at the units back line into midfield. If the distances aren't right, then you can start to get caught out badly. You'll start to get played around in midfield if the defence is too deep, if they want to be a bit more cautious. So every unit has to work in unison with each other, and that's what you'll find all over the pitch, that even if you're looking at the attacking third, if you're looking at 3 front players or 4 front players, whichever system Stephen's going to adopt going forward, if you're looking at the attacking players, when they're going to press, they're getting played round, then all of a sudden midfield gets exposed. That has a knock-on effect across the whole of the pitch. So if you get your units right and your distance is right all over the pitch, it essentially should be fine. But when you're playing that risky football and you're playing a little bit higher and you're playing a bit further forward, you're going to get caught out, certainly with balls over the top or a single ball that can get in behind defences. And that's where we probably will get caught out at times. But you know yourself, it is that risk and reward. What's going to happen if because I noticed, and as you did as well, when we did press, we won a few high balls further up the pitch. We started to get a couple of chances off the back of that. That is the reward that you get from playing such a high line. It's
true. It's a quick way to create a chance for yourself. So David McGoldrick scored at the weekend. He's back fit, which is a big addition, you feel. Yeah. Seamus Coleman is out, so we know the back 4. What do you suspect the next 2 lines of 3 will be, Kev?
Oh, but there are options. That's the thing. We've spoken openly about Malumbi, about Harrahan, about Brady, about Hendrick, and all these players. I would imagine he'd probably go with a more experienced player in Jeff Hendrick, who started the season well with Newcastle as well. Harrahan, his set pieces and his dead balls, as well as his creativity in midfield, I think you would imagine he's going to be a starter with what he's done at the start of the season as well. Aaron Conley's been impressive. The reason why I've been impressed with Aaron Conley as well is I think he's maturing more as well as he's going, because if you're looking at Brighton when they're playing, at times, even in the last couple of Irish games as well, he's asked to play a certain role where you might be a little bit isolated at times. You might not necessarily see a lot of the ball, but he's a carrier of it. And if in spells in games where we are a little bit deeper, we're not necessarily getting possession, he can be the one that can carry us high up the pitch. So I would imagine those 3 will be starters. And you're looking, do you know what? You are kind of guessing, because there's even into the last game, Joe. I was surprised with 1 or 2 selections. I think most, by and large, I think it would have been what I would have picked with what Stephen Kenny picked. But there are 1 or 2 selections that I maybe would have looked at and thought I wouldn't necessarily have done that. So I would imagine we'll get 1 or 2 surprises come
Thursday.
7:45, 8 o'clock, whatever it will be on Thursday evening.
Yeah. The sense is McCarthy, I suppose, will start, and then O'Dowda seemed to do very well in most people's eyes, exactly. And Callum Robertson has maybe made a case for himself with the goals against Chelsea.
Well, do you know, I wouldn't be adverse to having pace off the bench. I think that's got to be something that we're mindful of if we are going to chase the game, if we are behind at any stage in the match. But also, if the game is in the balance and, you get into 60, 70 minutes and the game's at 0-0 or 1 apiece or whatever it's going to be, we've never really had, certainly in recent years, have we, a real injection of pace off the bench. So whether that would be Aaron Conley or Callum Robinson, it looks to me like he'd probably start Conley. I wouldn't be adverse to having someone like Callum Robinson coming off the bench. You mentioned the goals there that he scored against Chelsea, but also with what he's done over the last 6-8 months since he's gone there to West Brom, he's done very, very well for them. And I'd be one that, I think certainly if he doesn't start the game, there would be a definite role for him to play at some stage through in the game, no matter what's going to happen. Even if we're in front in the game, he's a carrier of the ball, and he certainly can go and press. He can certainly win the ball, and also take us up the pitch to try and run that clock down. So there's a number of options, I think, and that is the most important thing that we've not had for such a long time. We've now got a case in the final third where you kind of knew, didn't you? We kind of knew if we had 2 or 3 positions, we'd know from 4 players. Now we've probably got 6 or 7 lads that are actually playing well, where you think that there's a real case for Stephen Kenny to pick them, and that's got to be a good thing for him.
Yeah. One final point to make, and it's an aspect of international football and international Irish football that you probably opened my eyes up to a little bit more. This is going to be a very nervy, high-pressured affair. This is such a huge game, and you're going to have the likes of a Shane Duffy and others being asked to play expressive football that is probably easier to do when you're relaxed. So, that is going to be an aspect of this. Who handles this occasion better? That's not something I usually bring into a game like this, but both teams know what's at stake here. It's just massive.
Yeah. I know. I think the crowd helped, Joe. I think a lack of crowd is going to help that little bit of edginess and nervousness. I think that goes without saying.
Right.
But you can't take away what it actually means to the players. You know that yourself. It's certainly with someone like Shane Duffy, we know what it means for him to wear the shirt, and emotionally it does come into it at this stage because of what it means and what you've grown up with. So yeah, I do think that'll be the case. Absolutely, it certainly was the case with me. No matter what anyone would tell me, I've been on a pitch with certain players, and players do feel nerves in different ways. And this is one of those games, one of those huge matches that, yes, you want to be part of. Yes, I certainly miss them when they're coming around, because you're not part of these big occasions anymore. But if you put yourself in the players' shoes, there will be edginess. They'll be in the hotels trying to just get yourself focused on the game in itself. But you do get nervousness, lack of sleep. All these sort of things will be a factor going into the game this Thursday night. Yeah.
And I presume it's easier to roll your sleeves up and just work hard when you're nervous, as opposed to taking touches and playing expansive football. Yeah,
well, you know that yourself. Absolutely, it is. I think it's, if we're looking back in recent times, again, you'd never want to be too critical, because there were some big results that we've had over times. But it's absolutely easier for a back four to sit nice and narrow, nice and deep, midfield 4 or 5, whatever it is it's in front of them, getting your distances right, sitting in nice and deep, everything's tight, tucked in, difficult to play through, forcing teams wide. When crosses come in, everybody's in positions to go and attack those crosses. So you get through 90 minutes in a game at times when you're playing like that, and you think, look, we've only had 30% possession, but you come off thinking, well, we've not really been under that much pressure. It was actually a comfortable game, given that we didn't have a lot of the ball. This is a different aspect now, that yes, we are going to be more expansive, we're going to be more open, and more mistakes will be made off the back of that. And in these high-profile games, that can be career-defining, international career-defining, if you make big mistakes in these big matches, and that is where you do feel for them a little bit. But it's going to be insisted on them that they're going to have to be playing a certain way, and I'm looking forward to it, to see how it goes, and hopefully there's not too many mistakes off the back of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Hope it goes well. Listen, the line held up pretty well. Thanks so much for making time. I know you're a bit busy there running around. We'll catch up again.
Great stuff, Joe. Thanks a lot. Take it easy.
Take care. Kevin Kilbane there with his gazillion Republic of Ireland caps and experience, giving his thoughts. By the way, if you hadn't seen the news, the FAI have confirmed that a member of the backroom staff has tested positive for COVID-19. 2 additional staff members are now restricting their movements based on contact tracing. But the good news is that the 2 close contacts have tested negative for COVID. So that's great news. And all 3 of the backroom staff are asymptomatic and are well. And long may that continue. Obviously, it may disrupt preparations to some extent or other. So that was Kevin Phillips, Niall Quinn and Kevin Kilbane. It was a Paddy Power special, fueling the mischief in the beautiful game. For information on responsible gambling, visit dunlewy.net, DUNLEWEY.net.